Welcome and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This webinar is on dual enrollment, county offices of education, and CCAP partnerships with colleges. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We have a host of practitioners for you all to listen to this morning and learn from, and we'll go over a few logistical items, and then we'll go ahead and listen to our amazing presenters. So again, thank you for joining us. A brief intro into who we are. We can advance to the next slide. The Career Ladders Project is an organization that works throughout the state of California with a variety of colleges and their partners to help design and develop equity-minded practices on a host of different activities and projects and initiatives throughout the campus and across the systems. And our intersegmental partnerships aim to increase and improve outcomes for low-income and first-generation, as well as students of color, their post-secondary outcomes. And so we welcome you to engage in our website or reach out to us if you have other questions about CLP. Moving right along, this is the CLP team that's here today. I'm with my colleagues Naomi and Adair, and we're happy to help host this webinar for you all today. Real briefly, in terms of our agenda, which is represented on the next slide, we are going to go ahead and have all of you, if you could just take a brief moment in the chat to let us know who's all in the room here today. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your name and institution and having that waterfall in the chat so we can do some brief introductions, that would be great. So just do that in the chat. We're going to also provide an overview of the improvements and changes to CCAP. And then we are also going to give a few updates in terms of budget opportunities. After that, we are going to talk to our practitioners and actually have them talk to us. And they are from East LA College, the San Mateo Partnership, as well as the Youth Law Center. So again, a great host of folks here today. And then we will also have time at the end for questions. And so don't worry, we will be compiling those questions and then feeding those to our presenters at the end. So we want to make sure that we get through the presentations first and then get to those questions. Next slide, please. Great. And if we could enable the chat, that would be great as well. That way we can have folks there. Great, thank you. Again, questions, when we get to the different presenters, if you can go ahead and include either the partnership or the college that you are referencing your question about, that way we can make sure that that gets to the respective presenters and that your question could get answered. And don't worry if it doesn't get answered immediately. We're going to have copies of this webinar posted to our website, and we'll send it out as well as the slide deck. So you'll be able to connect with folks directly if you like, or we could be that avenue for you all to connect with folks as well. Next slide, please. So this timeline right here just gives a synopsis of the advancements to dual enrollment, starting with AB 288 or CCAP. For those of you that are less familiar, the acronym CCAP stands for College and Career Access Pathways. And that legislation was up and running, really got started in 2015. And as you can see, there has been tremendous advances to increase access and really meet the goals of the open access mission of community colleges. Next slide. As some of you may be aware, there is a spectrum of dual enrollment opportunities throughout the context of California, ranging from highly structured, which can be in the form of an actual physical building and campus, to an individualized experience where a student comes to the college on their own. They are enrolled in high school, and then they also arrive at the college campus to take college courses. And that is more of a less structured model. What we're going to be talking about here today, you'll see in the next slide, as it's highlighted, is the CCAP opportunity, which is highlighted here in the middle. CCAP at high schools provide the greatest opportunity for folks to scale their dual enrollment opportunities. And we'll talk a little bit more about the intent of CCAP in a bit. But we wanted to highlight to sort of give some framing in terms of what we want to illuminate here today. Moving right along. So CCAP, again, college and career access pathways, dual enrollment partnerships were intended to increase access to college for underrepresented students in post-secondary education, or those who otherwise may not have seen themselves as college going. So again, historically, dual enrollment was seen as for the privileged few or the students that had the opportunity to or had the means to access the college. But with CCAP, it's really expanding that definition of who can access the college and as a high school student. You enter into an agreement for CCAP. So both theoretically and in practice, it is a partnership. So both the K-12 institution and the higher ed institution engage in a partnership agreement that spells out some of the details on how that partnership is to be carried out. With CCAP partnerships, students are able to enroll into up to 15 units and have a higher priority registration with their unit accumulation if they are in fact in a CCAP pathway. CCAP also allows colleges to restrict enrollment to those courses if in fact the course is at the high school campus, is part of that CCAP partnership, and is part of the regular school day. In terms of how our pathways define, per CCAP, pathways could be a pathway to high school graduation, a pathway could be a pathway to college and career readiness, a pathway to transfer or career education, a certificate or degree. So when we talk about pathways in the context of CCAP, that's the context that we're talking about there. And in those agreements, it has a talking point about data sharing, which we know is important as we're navigating multiple institutions. Moving right along onto the next slide. Probably one of the reasons why you're here today is to hear about some of the updates to AB 102. So it has advancements to dual enrollment in general, and then we'll also chat here briefly about CCAP specifically. So in terms of all dual enrollment, there was an interpretation that there was a 10% cap at the local level. However, it was at the state level in which that cap exists. That is now removed. And it also lifted most restrictions on summer offerings as well. In terms of CCAP specifically, initially CCAP had a sunset date, but due to the success and the opportunities afforded through CCAP, it is now law, so it does not have a sunset date. There was also a removal of the oversubscribed course clause, and then it has the opportunity, a very exciting opportunity to include county offices of education, which again expands access to dual enrollment to students. And it clarifies what high school, in the context of these agreements, what that means. And so that includes community schools, continuation high schools, juvenile court schools, adult education program offerings for high school diploma or high school equivalent certificates. And so we're going to stay on this slide for a brief moment. And some of you may be wondering, well, with juvenile court schools or offerings through County Office of Education, different sets of programmings, can you share some examples? And so at this point, we wanted to invite in Katie to provide some context. Katie is with the Youth Law Center, and we're really excited to have Katie here, one, because of her expertise, but also Youth Law Center was one of the sponsors of AB 102. And so with that, could you provide us some context in terms of juvenile court schools and other types of opportunities for justice impacted youth with this agreement, Katie?
Sure, thanks. Just popping in really quick to give just a definition for folks who may not be entirely familiar with the court and community schools. And later in the presentation, we'll be sharing examples and going over all the opportunities that AB 102 offers our young people who are juvenile justice impacted. This is really exciting legislation. But just first, the county community schools, if you're not familiar, are public schools that are run by the county offices of education. And they serve students who may be deficient in credits. They could potentially be on probation, but the population is more expansive. It may also include students experiencing homelessness or other students who may be underserved. So it's a variety, but that's what the community schools are when we're referring to that. And then the court schools are required by law and overseen by the County Office of Education for students who are in juvenile detention facilities. And just want to make a note that for folks who are in the community colleges and you're trying to reach out to young people who are juvenile justice system impacted to join your programs and to serve them, then beyond juvenile detention facilities, things to consider is these community schools, of course, your local high schools, and we'll share other opportunities for thinking about how to reach out to these young people to pursue their college education.
Great. Thank you so much for that context, Katie. And you'll be hearing more from Katie about the specific work that she's been able to do in this area. Moving right along into the next slide. Some of you may have some initial questions. So just in terms of grounding, we wanted to share that some of the questions that we've come across or that you may be asking, when we talk about these partnerships and county offices of education, that's a vast area. So with community colleges, they only can have a certain service area. So how does that work? So the law is very clear. If you're working with a particular community college, it's important that you're in their service area. If there are a program of study within another service area, you would need to get permission from that college in order to have that type of partnership. But it's very clear that you need to work with your primary college first. Courses have to be closed if in fact they are at the high school campus as part of these agreements. Adult students or minors who can benefit from this. Students seeking their high school diploma or high school equivalency. So that's inclusive of adult school students that are seeking that degree or diploma, as well as the minors that are in the K-12 system. And then in terms of what does this mean for your existing CCAPs, if you already have them, a CCAP is a CCAP. So this would be an added entity to your CCAP agreements or addendums to, again, expand access. So really exciting opportunity. But if you have questions beyond this, please feel free to include those in the chat and or reach out to us directly. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Naomi Castro, to talk about some exciting funding opportunities as it relates to dual enrollment.
Thank you so much, Laurencia. Thank you. And if we can go to the next slide, great. Thank you, Ed. And if I can just take a quick pause too, I am so excited about the folks who are going to be giving you some examples in a few minutes. Like, I am a huge fangirl of all of these practitioners and their partnerships, and I brag about them across the state all the time. So that's just me, like, putting in my fangirlness. I wanted to let folks know that there are some upcoming opportunities that we're really excited about that can provide some funding for your dual enrollment. And this is, this is always like dual enrollment takes extra work. It takes all kinds of incredible extra supports if we want to do it well, especially if we're reaching out to students who might not consider themselves college going or aren't already on a college track, who might be in an alternative track. And we really want to support them to be successful in college. So there are some funding opportunities. There is going to be a request for applications coming out this spring for CCAP agreements. And so we're waiting for a little clarification right now. For sure, it's for brand new CCAP agreements. So county offices of ed, it's all brand new, right? So you can have a new CCAP agreement with your county office of ed. And we're waiting for some clarification to see if it can also be used for existing CCAPs that are expanding. But it will be up to $100,000 per school site. So that's an incredible opportunity, and it's a multi-year grant. There is also an opportunity for startup funding for early and middle colleges, early and middle college high schools. And that will be up to $250 per site. So that's also very exciting. And again, we're waiting. The RFA hasn't come out yet, so there might be some changes in there, and we will see about that. And so then the really super big, exciting opportunity as well is the Golden State Pathways. This is a huge investment. It's a $500 million investment from the state. And it is cross-sector partnerships. So that could include K-12s. It could include county offices of ed, community colleges, 4 years, employers, to really, really structure well pathways. There are priority pathway areas, but as long as you pick pathways that are meet a labor market demand, you're I think would be in compliance with the law. Career and college together, like an end to this kind of bifurcation of CTE over here and traditional transfer over here. And one of the many requirements is 12 units of college credit available to students who are in high school. And so that's very exciting. I don't know if that also includes adult dual enrollment, but it may. We'll get more clarification when the RFAs come out. And so if you want to learn more about that, if you want to if you have an awesome partnership that you think is positioned well to apply for these funds, we're going to be in San Diego with our colleagues, the Link Learning Alliance and the Education Trust West, in the middle of February. And there's a wonderful Link Learning Conference that's going on all week. You can register for that. But that Friday in particular, we're going to have what we're calling a coherence lab, where we're going to really focus in on all of these kinds of opportunities. If you're not able to go to that, but you want to get updated, we have a CLP mailing list. So I'll put that link in here as well. You can always join our mailing list, and we'll send you announcements. But with that, I'm going to hand it back to my colleague, Laurencia, who's going to take us through our awesome presenters.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Castro. So our exemplars, the reason why you all are here today. And so first on the next slide is the introductory slides for our East LA College and LA County Office of Education colleagues that are here today. And with that, I believe I'll turn it over to Dr. Miguel Dueñez, Vice President of Student Services at East LA College, to start us off. Go ahead,
Thank
Miguel.
you, Laurencia. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Great information being shared. I would like to start off by introducing my colleagues and partners here. Blanca Gomez is our Dean of Student Services that oversees our dual enrollment and K-12 partnerships. And along with us, a special guest, Dr. Maricela Ramirez, the Chief Education Officer of LA County Office of Education. Again, a great partner to have, and really has allowed us to expand a lot of the partnerships that we currently have, but also really a thought partner as to how else could we service and provide opportunities for our students and our community members. Next slide, please. So in my portion here, I want to discuss a little bit about partnership structure and procedures. A lot of times we are asked, how did you start a partnership, or how did this evolve? And it happens in K-12 very frequently, with high schools, middle schools for our campus. But the LA County Office of Education really, again, is another educational agency that is going to has access and students that have great needs as well, just like our local K-12s. So first, identifying the needs and capacity on both ends. We identify what is the need by meeting with our partners, identifying what their goals are, who our population is, and then identifying capacity on both ends. What is the demand that the college was going to have in regards to support the needs in dual enrollment and CCAP agreements, identifying career pathways, identifying GETC courses that are going to support students in attainment, identifying degree programs or skill certificates. Being able to first identify what we are able to offer, and then connecting with our partners will help us to then create the pathway, create the plan to establish the program. And through this process, procedures are important. Having everyone at the table is important. Identifying timelines as to when we wish to launch a program, and then backwards plan. What is it that we need to do? When do we need to meet? Who's going to be involved? Identifying service areas is extremely important when you're working with the county department of a county office of education, because they will be in multiple areas. And in colleges, as we all know, we have service areas. We want to be respectful of each other's service area. Therefore, identifying those up front and ensuring that our partners understand the limitations, restrictions we might have when it involves partnering with a school that might be in the service area of another college. So having those open and transparent conversations is very important. And at the end, resources and support. Once we get the program started and have the timeline set, identify the boundaries, what resources and support are available? As Dr. Castro just mentioned, a wealth of resources coming down the line. It would be great to tap into those. but also identifying what is it that each agency is able to offer. What resources does the County Department of Ed have to offer for their students, to their faculty and staff? Similarly to the college, what is it that we're able to offer for our students and our support teams that they may identify? Because having it done by one group is not going to be enough. Really, it does take a village. It does require us to work together cohesively and as in braiding our funding and resources that we have. Ultimately, the impact will be on the student. The student does not see that that's one agency and that's that agency. They just see, am I getting the support that I need to be successful? Is someone there to answer my question when I need help? Can I get support in tutoring when it's needed? They don't know that this funding comes from this place or that place, but they see what is provided for them. All of these efforts then lead our students to be successful. All these efforts provide a positive experience in a collegiate environment, therefore propelling and assisting our students to persist into college education. Ultimately, the goal is to help them see themselves in college. How do we do this? In partnership. And again, it does require structure and procedures to ensure the sustainability and scalability of the program. And I will transition the slide over to my partner, Blanca Gomez, that will share a little bit about CCAP and dual enrollment. Blanca?
Thank you, Dr. Dueñas. Yes, I first want to say thank you to CLP for convening our group together, growing, learning. It's just a really exciting time of all these opportunities. And if you're not on that mailing list, get on the mailing list. So, I'm a social worker by training, and I'm going to identify the following that's been helpful for East Los Angeles College as we move forward with relationships with our districts, our partners. And first of all, it's about managing those relationships and clarity. So, institutional teams and leads, it's trying from the very beginning to see who your partners are going to be and working on these efforts. And I'm a big believer that people tend to support what they create, but collectively, as both systems come together, commonality and common goals are a huge push to see things, positive outcomes on both ends. Identifying our schools and centers, when we work with the probation camps, it's also the same thing. It's starting with that relationship and building that trust, providing access, providing availability, both at the schools and at the centers. And because we may start off at the centers, but the end of the goal would be, as they transition back to a school, is to follow or provide the information to the youth to be able to end their goal. I mean, to see their goal, at the end, that they're going to be able to finish it. We're big believers. We're meeting the students where they're at. This is, this population, it's really giving them hope and believing in them, seeing the end of what it is that they want. If it's graduation, if it's, transferring successfully, a CTE, it's really addressing what in every individual, what is their end goal. And then the courses and services that are going to be offered. East Los Angeles College, we have a smorgasbord of a lot of courses, but we have to be really great listeners as to what our partners and what the population, the students, are really interested. Some of the things we do, and it's been done in your organization, we take polls, but we're big listeners to our partners as to they know their students best. And so it's clarity in terms of maybe starting off with one course and then growing. I could tell you, just for an example, our logistics program, we put a lot of effort in really just giving a great overview of what this means and what are the very different job opportunities or career opportunities for our youth. And then lastly, which is really important. And with LACO, I can tell you, we're in that process, and in the beginning phases of this is the board approval of procedures and timeline for our CCAP agreements. So, every entity and system is different. And again, I'm going to circle back to managing relationships, how important they are, and to be that person that, you know, each system has a point person to that they can pick up the phone or you know, have those conversations, be transparent as to what exactly, you know, what each system can do. You know, with board approval, you know, every board operates differently, but we all know that, you know, there's going to be procedures and a timeline. Get clarity and be transparent to your own system as to where we're at and how's it going. Use your, you know, have timelines and goals in terms of milestones of where we should be at by a certain month. Believe me, it is the best thing as you start and then you get to that finish point and all of the conversations that take place. But, you know, with you know, with our work, we all know that we want to do the best. We want to provide that personalization service to our students. And when we're all, you know, with clarity on the same boat or on the same page, that's how we get our positive outcomes. It's an exciting time. This partnership with LACO, it is great. This is a population that, you know, we really have history and working in the past. Our next guest, it gives me great privilege to introduce Dr. Maricela Ramirez, who will be sharing through her lens and her position at LACO, you know, what does this mean, this partnership with East Los Angeles College? And I know they service so many school districts, but I'm sure she could tell you what a huge impact leaders like all of you make for the population of youth at LACO. Dr. Ramirez, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for having me on this panel, as this is an incredible conversation to be part of, because we know here that dual enrollment indeed is transformative for our students, and it's a tool that's going to help strengthen their opportunities. At LACO, I have the privilege of working with juvenile court, county community, and specialized high schools. And I truly appreciate the clarified commitment to our schools. And it's wonderful to have a seminar here that incorporates all of our students, because all of our students are different and all of our schools are different. And part of the exciting work that we have ahead of us is being able to truly personalize the work that is needed for them. It's incumbent upon us to build programs that meet their needs. And, you know, it's been an incredible journey working with East LA College, you know, at our schools and especially with our county community schools, because East LA College has been really instrumental in meeting the needs of our students. And I'll give you a couple of examples. They provide incredible support during the enrollment process. They are flexible. Sometimes things happen with our students' lives. Sometimes things happen with you know, their coursework, and there is a lot of flexibility that's built into it. So when the school, you know, when our partnership started, we know and we knew then that it's not just like, oh, here's ELAC and let's just get started with them. No, they've been with us and they're partners alongside us the entire time, including, you know, providing materials when appropriate. And, you know, I just want to share that, you know, as you all know on this seminar, that the students that go through these programs, right, have a renewed sense of confidence, and that truly in many ways, this, you know, being part of dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment really rips apart the narrative that some of them have of themselves, that they are not college materials, but this absolutely proves that they are. So it's this renewed hope that keeps me going and makes sure that, you know, we're doing all of the work that we need to do, because it is work, it is, you know, meetings, it is timelines, agreements, right, to make sure we're able to expand these opportunities for them. And that is, you know, our intention, of course, to be able to extend, to be able to be intentional, because we want to make sure that, you know, all of our students, our just as involved youth, are continued to have, you know, the support that they need, you know, with academic planning and other things. And, you know, again, I do want to thank Mr. Dueñas and Ms. Gomez for all of their work, and all the staff at East LA College for working with us and for their flexibility. You know, we recently had a meeting where we started talking about, well, you know, sometimes our students transition out. What might that look like? Well, let's talk about it. Let's design, let's think about it, right? So everything is an opportunity, and I am eternally grateful for that. And of course, none of this happens without the amazing work of all of our counselors, right? that are doing the work at the school sites with our students and are helping also with their transition. And so again, I think together, working together, these new opportunities, new funding, new legislation, right? It's so exciting. Thank you to everybody who's worked on this, because we are all part of rewriting the narrative for our students, so that they can see themselves as the leaders that they are. So thank you again for having me here.
Thank you so much to our East LA team and the LA County Office of Education. Folks, again, if you have questions for this specific partnership, feel free to put those in the chat and we'll funnel those to our speakers. With that, I am excited. We can go on to the next slide to introduce Katie Bliss from the Youth Law Center. She's our California Higher Education Project Coordinator. And Katie, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Great to be with all of you today. So I work at Youth Law Center, and just so folks know, we're a national legal advocacy firm based in San Francisco for our higher education work. And we do a lot of work with our California State Chancellor's Office. And we'll be sharing information for you all to be able to connect with us further to support you all in supporting our young people who are juvenile justice system impacted. So one of the things I did want to share just up front is the work that Youth Law Center has been doing. It's been really exciting to bridge the legal decarceration advocacy that we've been doing for alternatives to incarceration that includes dual enrollment with this Pathways to Higher Education work. And in California, there's over 73 community college programs that are dedicated to system impacted students, and 21 of which include an intentionally focused portion on system impacted youth, which is really exciting. And included in this type of programming is an emphasis on dual enrollment. A few I'm going to mention just to highlight, but it's not the full list, include San Mateo, which we'll hear from, Riverside, San Francisco, Oakland, Solano, Lake Tahoe, Contra Costa, Fresno, LA, and Sacramento are just a few. And also Kelly from Rising Scholars, I know, is with us today too. So maybe she can share in the chat the Rising Scholars information so folks can connect with all of them and hear more about the work that they're doing too. And we hope to see this number of programs grow, especially with the focus on serving juvenile justice impacted youth. And this legislation that has been passed for AB 102 that Youth Law Center sponsored really opens the door to those kinds of opportunities. So for the next slide, always want to take a moment to look at what's possible for higher education and what's going on right now in California. So as mentioned with the current legislation, there is the passage of AB 102, and this allows school districts and colleges to enter into CCAP agreements with county offices of education to include the court and community schools. And the next piece that I did want to highlight, if people don't know about funding, is that there is $15 million in ongoing funding that's invested in juvenile justice focused higher education programs. And this is based on the Project Change program model to be implemented by the California Community College Chancellor's Office Rising Scholars Network. So more information about that will be sent out over the next several weeks, months for folks to get involved in that if you're interested, but it's very exciting and historic to have this kind of funding available for specifically juvenile justice impacted students. And there is an emphasis on dual enrollment in this kind of programming. And just to mention as well that up to 45 community colleges around the state are eligible to receive funding annually. If you're with a county office of ed and you're here with us today, then that's a key partnership as well. And so you can work with your local community college to pursue this funding. So in the next slide, I did want to take a pause and talk a little bit more about AB 102 and why this is so critical for our young people who are juvenile justice system impacted, and these opportunities for them that really, as mentioned, change the narrative from being not college focused and having that be a message that is regularly shared with these young people, which needs to change and is certainly part of the work that all of us do who are here today. to reframe the way that young people should be pursuing their goals and what we're making available for them. So under current law, community colleges can enter into CCAP agreements, but it was unclear prior to this legislation if they could enter into partnerships with county offices of education. And so having this AB 102 pass now makes this available. And we know that higher education has a restorative power for juvenile justice involved youth. So providing a college pathway to young people during this critical time of their adolescent development, where they're beginning to have that personal identity and sense of self and starting to create an idea of their goals and pathways, and establishing their peer groups and having role models in the community gives young people this roadmap towards their future. And students who are impacted by the juvenile justice system have historically been told that these options for their futures are limited. So these post-secondary opportunities are really critical for changing the trajectory of their lives, which we're going to hear about in a little bit as well. So in the next slide, I just wanted to lift up and flag some of the challenges and opportunities that are specific to juvenile justice impacted students. Unfortunately, it has been the experience of so many young people who have been in the system that they have a disjointed educational experience. And what that means is if you get involved in the system, right, you might be in a juvenile detention center for, it could be, a weekend, it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. And at this critical time of development for young people and their education, this really shifts their opportunities, right? If you're in and out of facilities. And then if you're going into a court or community school and going out of your local high school, then this is also disruptive. So this can result in a deficiency of credits and can also lead to a lack of support for post-secondary transition and having, really negative perspectives about what's possible. So this is where these intervention pieces are really critical for young people to be able to have, and where dual enrollment as an intervention and an alternative is really valuable for young people. And so with this being available, this really changes the course of what we can see for the possibilities for our youth who are juvenile justice system impacted. So just a few things on the dual enrollment piece that I brought up a little bit, but want to just go to the end and share with folks too that some of the work that we've been doing with our chancellor's office and with folks around the state who are involved in this at community colleges and nonprofit organizations and so on is to also have dual enrollment be an alternative to incarceration, where young people can be staying in their home communities, taking classes while they're still in high school and expediting their pathways to both higher education, but also completing their high school diplomas in a much faster way, which again is just a real shift from what has previously been made available over the years, where young people have had to take packets and do school in independent study. And so instead, being on a pathway to college really early really shifts the message for what they can accomplish. In the next slide, I just wanted to lift up as well that this work isn't possible and doesn't get done if we don't have the young people themselves who are experiencing this fight for this to be possible. This legislation that Youth Law Center worked with Senator Holden to pass is absolutely created by all the young people who, many of which are part of Project Change, came to the Capitol to speak on behalf of this legislation, share their stories. And this is a tremendous piece of leadership and certainly something to implement into any kind of programming that people make available for their students. And then just lastly, to wrap up, just thinking about, what our young people need. Dual enrollment is absolutely a key piece to what's possible for them in this last slide, but there is a process in which we create programming on our college campuses and in K through 12 that can really reach into the ability for students to have advocacy roles, to speak out on behalf of what's needed to change, and to be supported to pursue their higher education goals. So with that, I'll wrap up, and I'll share resources with folks as well to be able to have TA and support if you're implementing this kind of programming, and to reach out to also all the other colleges across the state who are starting to do this work too, if this is something that you're starting to think about yourself. And with that, I'll pass it to Dr. McVean.
Great, thanks, Katie. Go to the next slide, please. And even the next one. Hey, there I am. Hey, everybody. Good morning. So great to be with so many of you this morning. Thanks for joining this webinar to learn more about the CCAP agreements and the recent changes. I am Aaron McVean. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Educational Services and Planning in the San Mateo County Community College District. So we're a 3-college district here on the San Mateo Peninsula. And our college is Skyline College, College of San Mateo, and Kenyatta College. And my colleague Nick Jasso is with me, and he'll talk more about specifically Project Change of the College of San Mateo that's been doing this dual enrollment work with our County Office of Education for a number of years now. So go to the next slide, please. But just to give you an idea of what we do here in the district, and to really echo some of the comments that were made earlier by my colegas from East LA, partnerships are necessary to get this work done. And we as a district, we really started a strategic focus on dual enrollment back in 2018. You can see the growth that we've had there on the slide. So, close to 4,000 students now across 5 high school districts enrolled in some form of dual enrollment. We've got 5 different districts. We have 5 different CCAPs that we've had in place, some of them for the past 4 years, some of them as recent as a couple of years ago. And so we were thrilled that this legislation now allows us to expand directly to our County Office of Ed. Speaking of those partners, my partner, Karen Newsty from the County Office, I see you out there, Karen, in the audience. It's not possible to get this done unless you got someone to work with. And Karen and I work not only on CCAPs together, but K-12 strong workforce grants and other things. And so you got to find a partner, and Karen's a great partner at the County Office and helps make these things happen. Also just want to give a couple shout outs here in the district, Dr. Lauren Ford, who works district-wide with us to do this type of dual enrollment expansion. I see Stephen Redmond, Director of Middle College from Kenyatta College. He works with us to make this happen. Myra Ariano down there at Kenyatta as well, Director of High School Transitions. It takes all of these partners really to work together to get to the point where you're offering substantial dual enrollment across the district. It also takes committed faculty. And so Dr. Nick Cap, I see you out there, one of our first faculty members to engage in dual enrollment, build out our biotech pathways, working with the high schools. All that is to say is that it helps when it's a strategic focus of your district or your college in particular to make these things happen. And then you build those partnerships, those collaborations in order to see the growth. And so, as was mentioned even earlier, a CCAP is a CCAP. With this new legislation, it's just an extension of what we're currently doing to have a CCAP agreement in place with our County Office of Education. And so we have had partnerships with them. We've offered dual enrollment with them specifically through Project Change. And tonight on my board agenda, I have my CCAP agreement going with my county office. And someone asked a question. I also have a CCAP agreement going with Oxford Day Academy, which is a private district, right, not associated with the school district, that is now also possible. So I encourage folks to move forward with all haste. If you have CCAP agreements, do a little copy paste, take out the district, put it in the county office, get them to the board, and get these things approved, because this is going to expand those opportunities for youth, in particular at our court and community schools, which is our focus here with the program that is known as Project Change. And so to tell you more about that, let me hand it over to Nick Jasso, our new coordinator for Project Change at College of San Mateo. Nick.
Well, thanks so much, Aaron. So hi, my name's Nick Jasso. I'm the new Program Services Coordinator for Project Change. And I wish that I could take more credit for all the dual enrollment work that has been done. but I just started about a month ago, and so a lot of this was already in process before I got here. I am an alumni of the program, and so I've benefited greatly from the things that Project Change has done. Project Change has been around for almost 10 years now. It started back in 2013 at the College of San Mateo, with the goal of bridging the gap between incarceration and higher education. And so taking the traditional school to prison pipeline and flipping it on its axis, right? And bringing youth that are incarcerated to the College of San Mateo. Thankfully, we are expanding, or our model is expanding to 45 colleges across California, with the $15 million that we got from the state. And a core component of what Project Change does is the dual enrollment piece. And so what happens with Project Change is we offer courses inside of the juvenile hall. And so our students that are still high school students are receiving college and high school credit. And so, for example, this semester we're offering a positive psychology course. And so the students that are still in high school are receiving 10 high school credits. And they're also receiving 3 college units, which are IGETC and CSU transferable. And so it'll work for them once they get out and they continue in their educational journey. And then could you go to the next slide? Thank you. And so it's kind of like this 3-tiered approach where we are getting the students that are inside the juvenile hall, and as soon as they get out, we are continuing these services, right? So while they're inside, we're meeting with them, we're setting them up with classes, getting all their counseling stuff done, and once they're on campus, we're able to continue with financial aid, continue with campus tours and orientation, and kind of do all the warm handoffs to all the important departments around the campus. So we have people in counseling, we have people in financial aid, admissions and records. We have professors who are super accommodating and are really eager to work with our students. And I think something that everyone has talked about so far is the necessity for these partnerships. We need partnerships, at least for us. We needed partnerships with probation to be able to work inside. We needed partnerships with the County Office of Ed, so we could get this all approved. But also we needed partnerships here on our campus to identify professors and staff members that would be really willing to support this work. Because when supporting students that have been caught on this school to prison pipeline, right? We need to make sure that we're not punishing students further, that we're not using punitive approaches to programming and things like that, and that we're creating a campus environment that is a web of support that will really just take away any barriers that they might have. A really key component of the on-campus model is the student leadership aspect. And so what that looks like is, running a student meeting and a student club, and helping really facilitate leadership skills in those students so that eventually they can take that on and do whatever they want with the group, right? And so they can start running events, pro-social and advocacy events. That looks like paying your students to do that as well, and really helping shift the narrative. For example, like with me, I was always labeled as someone who was defiant, someone who was always speaking out and getting into trouble, right? And with giving these leadership positions, that talking back or that speaking out or that getting into trouble, that was shifted into being an advocate and a public speaker and a leader, right? And so we need these key transitions from things that weren't necessarily seen as strengths, but are strengths or can be turned into those. And then next slide, please. Yeah, so I already talked a little bit about the key partnerships. So we needed, County Office of Ed, we needed probation, we needed community-based organizations, primarily. So with the students that we're working with, we can get a lot of students directly from the juvenile hall. But for the students that have never gone into the court system but are very close to it, right? We have to pull on to community-based organizations, and we also have to a college campus. While it would be nice if we could provide all the services, right? We can't always. We can't be everything for everybody. There's funding and all these other restrictions and requirements, but there are a lot of people out there that are already doing the work, and so an organization that we loosely partnered with is Fresh Lifelines for Youth, in order to help with their educational needs, and also they offer case management and things like that, which also really assists with our students. Next slide. Yeah, and so I talked about this a little bit, but another really cool component of what we're able to do with the dual enrollment, and especially in the present day, with a lot of classes being offered virtually, and a lot of professors moving towards zero cost textbooks or making everything in PDFs, is we've been able to offer asynchronous courses to our students that are in juvenile hall as well, and they've been using their study skills times to be able to really dive deep into this this coursework. And so we have students taking philosophy and sports medicine classes, and things like that, in addition to their Project Change courses, or for some youth that will be released before the end of their course, we enroll them in an asynchronous version of that same course, so that they can still continue on with their classmates, and still receive that credit and learn these skills. But they won't be restricted or have to drop the course because they're being released, because that's an amazing thing, right? We want our youth back in our communities, and we want to support that. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. Talked a little bit about this as well. It's really important to have these partnerships, especially for creating programming for our formerly and our currently incarcerated students. Without probation partnerships, we wouldn't be able to get inside. We wouldn't be able to have access to our young people. And by having this access, we're really able to do the work that is needed. For example, I I have really amazing clearance where I can go in and meet with students, and especially since a lot of students, they're not able to access a computer, there are a lot of just like logistical things that'll pop up, where emails don't work, or people forget passwords and things like that, and these are just terrifying logistical issues when you're not allowed to use the internet, right? Or there's barriers to websites and things that you could use. And so with those partnerships, we're able to go inside and help assist our students with this. The education that they're receiving, and the programming that they're receiving with Project Change, it helps them with their court cases, and thankfully we have a really strong relationship with probation and with the private defenders, and so being enrolled in these college classes, it also helps them with whatever legal stuff they have going on as well. And then, of course, we need to use our community-based organizations to fill those gaps that I was talking about earlier. Next slide. And none of this, I think, would be worth it, right, without being able to talk about some of the students that have made it through, and are now doing great things. obviously, I went through the program. I went to UCLA, came back, and now I'm working for the program. But I'd really like to highlight two of our students as well. We have Jackie Rodriguez, or Jacqueline Rodriguez, who graduated from College of San Mateo, just graduated from UCLA as well, and is applying for law school. And I've had the amazing honor of going in and being able to speak with the students inside of juvenile hall with Jackie. And she's applying to law schools like Yale and Harvard and UC Berkeley. And so I'm really eagerly waiting to hear back where she gets into. But she was one of our students that, stopped receiving traditional schooling after 8th grade and was in and out of juvenile hall for her young adult life. And so it's really amazing to see her off and doing amazing things. And then we have Alana. Alana is a College of San Mateo graduate as well. She's at UC Santa Cruz right now. Also had the pleasure of speaking with her on a panel recently. And super excited for when she graduates and, eventually probably is going to law school as well. And so, yeah, it's just amazing to see our young people going off and taking positions of leadership and going off and doing great things and continuing to advocate for young people that are still experiencing the system. Thank you.
Okay, wow. Wow, the chat is alive with incredible questions. The Q&A is alive with amazing questions. A lot of them have been somewhat addressed, but I think we need to throw it all out to our panelists now. So Adair, if you could advance to the, actually, let's go back. Let's keep it on some awesome students, like while we talk. Like they're wonderful. And so one of the things I want to make sure everybody knows, and for my team, this is something we need to make sure we do tonight, is there's been so many great resources dropped in the chat that we're going to create an extra slide at the end of this before we send it out that has all of those links. So there was a link dropped for the Rising Scholars Network, which is incredible. Katie dropped a link to sign up for the Youth Law Center listserv, fantastic. And then there were some questions in the chat asking for samples of CCAP agreements. And our dear colleagues at San Mateo Community College District, Dr. Ford, dropped in an agreement that they have there. And also our friend Sean O'Neill with Los Rios Community College District also dropped a link to a CCAP agreement. So thank you all for all of that. We also, CLP hosts a digital online base camp community of practice for dual enrollment with practitioners across the state. And so folks will ask questions like that and practitioners across the state will respond. So you are, if you want, I put an address in there if you want to sign up for that as well, but tons and tons of resources. So maybe now there, if you could take the slides off and just have our panelists on. And panelists, if you wouldn't mind starting your video, we're just going to ask some questions that have been dropped, and we're going to start with we're going to go a little bit backwards on the questions. So one attendee wrote that they have a trouble with dual enrollment because of the transiency of their students. So students maybe not attending school regularly or only on short term. And Nick, you kind of talked about that just a little bit, with some of the students that you work with. So how do you kind of address that issue of, we're not sure if our student's going to be here for a full semester or not, or they may have had some inconsistent time in traditional school? Should I call on people that make it easier? Nick, do you have any insight into that?
Yeah. And so something I think helps a bit is moving towards like an incentive-based model. And so something that we're going to be doing with Project Change is everyone, regardless of, what they do, will be receiving let's just say $50 for food and $50 for transportation. And as they complete things and they go to their counseling appointments, and they, you know, get all the things that they need to get done as a student, that increases to $75. And as they go above and beyond, which we believe that they will, and we're going to encourage them to, then they get 100 and 100. And that's a way to incentivize students continuing their education and being really involved and proactive. But something that could also help if you have a student that is really struggling to because, you know, sometimes students have housing issues, or they're moving, or you know, they have, you know, maybe legal things going on. I think the way to do it is to move towards asynchronous coursework, and maybe only enroll them in a class or two for the moment while they're figuring their stuff out.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. And yeah, like an extra bump too for incentivizing, but also asynchronous is such a great option. Dr. Ramirez, do you have any insights into how to support students who may have like kind of a transient, you know, they've got things coming up and it's hard.
Yeah, this is one of the conversations that we've started with East LA College, right? Thinking about the virtual option and how possibly if a student moves from one school to another, if maybe there's some continuity that we could continue there so that the students don't lose out.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see that Katie dropped a link into the chat for the San Mateo District Promise Scholars program as a really strong model. Katie, do you want to talk about that for a minute, how that might be helpful?
To be honest, I might kick that over to Dr. McBean to share about, because that's his world. But it is something that, as Nick shared about, has really influenced the project change model in ways to support students, and is worth checking out.
Yeah, just like, I mean, just like we all know with any other model, like the highly structured aspect of it, so the students know exactly what to expect, and then incentivizing participation, like give some students some money, right? I do things for money all the time. So like, yeah, any kind of additional funding you can get, foundation, we've used foundation funds before to support. Now we have district funds that are dedicated to it. Cal Wellness has been a great partner and provided funding that we've been able to use. And so like any of those ideas is like incentivize student participation, right? Like that is an absolute piece of it. And then that highly structured aspect, you know, Promise Scholars program being our stand-up program that we use, but it's like, you know, regular contacts, they know what to expect. And when they're meeting those things, absolutely, here you go. So that's a big piece of how we keep other participation absolutely for this population as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And then a question I'm going to throw out to our college colleagues, so maybe I'll toss it over to ELAC next, is there's been quite a few questions about minimum class size. And so it's kind of related, right? Like we're talking about like some structure here. So how have you been flexible, or how do you work with class sizes?
I could speak on this. For us, the class sizes, again, as we're piloting a program or starting a program, I will retract the word pilot. We're not going to use that word. We're going to say start and initiate, because we're going to be successful because our students need for us to be successful. As we're initiating a course, at times the buy-in might be challenging. We need to adjust. We need to pivot. We need to have support from administration, leadership, to know that this is an investment that will grow and flourish as we build on it. And I think what helps with this is having strong partnerships, really having the opportunity to connect with folks, have leaders on the site. If it's a detention center, who are our leaders there? Who's going to be our support mechanism there? And then as well, how can we provide additional support? Because all these efforts then will lead to increased enrollment. Students will hear about the program. They'll have opportunities to really get a good understanding of it, and will build their persistence beyond their time at that institution. We had students that have reached out and completed programs and obtained jobs with, like, for example, UPS at one of our detention centers. The UPS actually came to the facility and committed to our students and said, if you complete this program, upon exiting, you will have a job at UPS. And many of them followed through. So creating those partnerships, but really internally, the having that team aspect to support the growth as you develop the program. And it's okay at first if you're under enrolled, and hopefully you have the support from your leadership, but giving the strategic plan and saying, this is our goal, this is where we're going, this is the potential that we have there.
And I just like to add really quickly, like for East LA College, you know, it's being surrounded, or because we're the biggest advocates for our youth, and being surrounded, or, you know, with other believers that this is the plan, this is where we're taking it to, but this is where we're starting from. Because we know in the beginning, it is going to need some traction, but we're the biggest advocates to make it happen.
And Dr. McVean, you are at the district level. Can you, so I interpret this question as like partners, especially on the County Office of Ed side, on the K-12 district side, are being told, this is one of our non-negotiables. We have to have at least 20 students or 25 students or 18 students or whatever, because then we can't operate the class. Otherwise, we're operating in a deficit. Can you just maybe speak to how much flexibility colleges and districts have?
And you know, I recognize my privilege in this on so many fronts. One, I'm a basic aid district, right, being San Mateo, and so we have more resources than a lot of districts. We don't have to be as concerned much. However, I'll say even before we were in that state, I mean, this is about, as my colleagues mentioned, this is about the priorities of your district, right? Our strategic plan is explicit when it says that we're about equity and social justice, and we include high school partnerships and dual enrollment as one of our primary strategies in that. This is a strategic initiative. This is about free community college, and it starts in dual enrollment. All of that pressure and buy-in is there. And it's there from the highest level at the Board of Trustees, because as folks know, you're going to get some folks talking to your board on this one, whether it's about this contract or this allowance or other kind of stuff. And, you know, a lot of times we get in our own way, we make up these rules, right? We make this stuff up, and we can unmake it if we choose to. So yeah, minimum class sizes kind of thing. We ignore it when we want, and we can in this case as well, right? And if you have to have a conversation, and you might and you will, about, well, do we really truly understand what equity work is, about, you know, differential investment in specific populations that need it, right? And, you know, so sometimes folks need a reminder about their definitions on these ones, but all of that is about buy-ins from that's the buy-in from the high level, and it's about this is the strategy. Because yeah, I mean, we focus here in our conversation about our juvenile justice system impacted population of students, because that's where our focus has been, but it's the same for our adult education students, right? They have been excluded so much from opportunities in higher education that it is time to make an additional investment in this population. But you're going to have that conversation, right? And sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable. But once you get that buy-in, then it helps remove a lot of those barriers and helps to say, okay, we make up that 20 thing. You know, we can let a program run with less. Like that's something we're able to do.
Please jump in, Dr. Duenas.
And another area that we did this once with I believe it was Afrobon Page camp. We had an opportunity to bring students to campus and had parents meet them, kind of, you know, involve parents, expand on empowering our parents and community, because that's another component that will support the student as they're transitioning from one location to another. I think it's finding ways on how do we inform the parents as to what their role is as a parent of a college student. What is it that they could do? And a college student, again, could be incarcerated youth, could be in a transitional home, it could be in a continuing in a school. Again, what is the role of the parent? And how can we as an institution support them to build their understanding and the tools that they have to know how to support their child as they're going through this program and transition and hopefully success.
And just to touch on that too, it's the whole social emotional piece, right? The space and the place that this individual has gone through this journey that, you know, for whatever reason, how he got there, but now the next steps, and how can we work together collectively with parents or caregivers or any support system the youth has, you know, to help him or her be successful.
Thank you. Thank you. There have also been a lot of questions about, and clearly I think we need to plan out a webinar sometime this spring to really focus on serving adult students and adult dual enrollment. And we are focusing right now on county offices of ed too. So I wanted to kind of open that door and see if there was anything you could talk about, specifically about adult students being served by county offices of ed and those kinds of adult dual enrollment programs. I know these are very, very new. And just for some level setting, this is adult students who are in a high school GED or high school diploma equivalency or diploma seeking program, whether it's offered by an adult school or another entity, a public entity, are able to qualify as adult dual enrollment. Dr. Duenas.
This is something that, and I'm sorry, I don't want to jump in. If other folks have items to share, please let me know. But I'm excited about this. I am truly excited about this because our adult population, at one point, I recall years back, we were trying to start this off and it was somewhat challenging. They had to apply for financial aid and it was just a barrier after barrier for them. Now to have them be able to have the opportunity to be special admit students is going to be a game changer. For us, we are working with our continuing ed office at ELAC and identifying some of our partners already. Our K-12 continuing education office, our adult schools, local community centers, parochial sites, again, really exploring where is this population? What programs do they have and what do they need? And how do we create those bridges for them? On the institutional side, we have to also ensure we're being very analytical of this and not confusing it with dual enrollment for K-12. So we're going to create a new name for this adult program for SB 554 to really be intentional and give it its own program and really an entity. So as our students come through, they had their program, they had their support staff that's going to guide them through this process. But again, we're going to replicate it very similarly to dual enrollment in regards on how we recruit, how we process the course offering, but again, just serving a different demographic.
Thank you so much. And also, people are asking for your contact information, but for anybody who's willing to share their email or a website for their program, please, of our panelists, please drop it in the chat. Dr. Ramirez, was there anything you wanted to add in about serving adult students?
No, I would just add that it's working with LEAs that have adult programs. And then again, as Dr. Duenas shared with the institutions and the adults within the institutions and being able to continue to serve them as well.
Excellent, excellent. Anything from our San Mateo colleagues about serving adult students? We're good? All right, cool. Yeah, so definitely we need to have another webinar. There's folks piloting this or starting this all over the state, and there's a lot of great information out there. Another thing, our colleague from Orange County, Stephanie, asked in the chat about outcomes, right? So how do we measure as we develop these programs and these partnerships? How should we be thinking about our outcomes and how do we measure that and what does success look like? I kind of added to Stephanie's question there. I'm going to throw it to Nick first.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What does success look like to you? Like, how do we kind of measure the successes of our programs? And then, like, how do we, like, is it the traditional, well, passing grades or getting through the program or, like, what does success look like?
To me, success looks like our young folks, our students really viewing themselves as students, right? Viewing themselves as college students, viewing themselves as leaders, and feeling capable and very able to do this work, right? I guess you could measure it by, class completion and things like that, but really, I think it's really in the intrinsic value that the students are receiving.
Nice, thank you for pulling it back to the students. Dr. Ramirez, what does success look like?
I think similar to Nick, I think it's about having students believe in themselves, having more students participate, right? So being able to expand the partnerships and really keeping long-term metrics if possible on what the impact is of, the dual enrollment classes and how this impacts them over their life, and college attainment and all of that would be really interesting for us.
Thank you. Katie, what's success look like? How do we know we're doing what we're supposed to do?
I do love what was said about the intrinsic piece. I do think that from the beginning, both with the Project Change program and the work that we're doing at YLC, it has been imperative that these young people who have been traditionally underserved are also absolutely completing courses, and that we hold ourselves accountable to make sure that they're doing that, that they're transferring to university, that we're braiding pathways for them in various fields and career pathways and making that all available. Having been juvenile justice system impacted myself as well. What was made available to me in the 90s was nothing. It wasn't even a high school diploma. You had to fight. I had to fight to get my high school diploma. And then, years later, that became kind of the standard. It's, you can complete a high school diploma, a high set, that's great. But as we've moved into the work to really hold the bar up much higher, which is that should not be enough. We should be making sure that if we're talking about equity, that we're making available to these young people everything they deserve, and that is, the world, but absolutely being able to pursue whatever goals that they have in making higher education and those pathways completely accessible to them, and being very mindful and thoughtful about the way that that is provided to them, which, again, going back to this dual enrollment piece, that's a key aspect, right? You're reaching out to youth 15, 16, 17 years old and telling them, as Nick mentioned, you're a college student. It's an identity piece at a really key point in their lives. And then also not just telling them that, but you're actually making available programming that leads them into graduating and transferring and doing these things. So I think it's all of it is really important.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, we also, we need those hard numbers as well to get the funding, to get the grants, to make a case. But those numbers, those success numbers coupled with real life stories, I think is what changes people's minds. I also wanted to ask about like creating new partnerships. So you all have some phenomenal partnerships. But we did have some questions in the chat that were more generally like, how do I approach the college, or how do I approach the community school? And so can folks speak to that for just a minute? Like, pretend you're brand new, that you don't have a partnership. Dr. Duenas, go ahead.
That is a great question. And is the more you get into this work, at times you forget about the novice, opportunity, the person that comes in fresh off, and getting into a position that is looking at this. I think what's important here is identifying goal setting, identifying what is it that we're looking for our students, what is it that our students need, then identify the local partner that you may have. Hopefully there's more than one in your area, but if there's one, identify the programs that you're looking for, and then the key person that will be in charge of any type of program. If it's K-12 programming, who's in charge of that? Also, and I love the question that folks have asked, do you have a CCAP agreement, a sample of that? Because that's a great way. Why reinvent the wheel? Find out what's already working in other institutions, get the best practices, and then see how is it applicable to my organization or my institution. Then how can we work with this partner to then create a program, again, that's really student-centered, identifying what's best for the student, not what's best for us or what's best for the institution to get recognition, really what's best for the student to have equitable access to education, to a college-going culture to support them. So that's one of the of my pieces of advice to start the initiative, is really exploring what's already been developed and seen what best fits you, and how can you advance from that.
Thank you. Oh, Blanca, go ahead.
And also building capacity where there's already capacity, like with the community schools with LACO. I remember early on, as an institution, we're curious, how can we be better, partners to service? We're all public servants. How can we be better? And we co-presented to the community at large at different areas. But it's making ourselves available and giving access. Because it's so powerful, when we get a group of folks together that are believers for, certain populations that, this is huge. The impact that we do for our students, it's so transformative. And so when we were like-minded other folks, it is amazing what can be done collectively.
Dr. Ramirez, when I think of LA County Office of Education, I think it's gigantic. I wouldn't know where to start. And of course, we've already talked about, like, service areas for colleges still apply when you're working with a county office, right? So you've got lots of colleges within LA County. Pretend I'm a small college. I want to work with you. How do I start?
It's a great question. So at LACO, we're very fortunate to have dedicated staff that works on this. So Jewel Forbes is our person who is our connector for all the LEAs. So you would go onto the LACO website, click, and you could find her. I think the other thing that's important is that, it is a large system, but it's also a system where our counselors all come in, there's support provided for them, presenters come in, people like Blanca and Miguel are able to come share information with them, as well as, with our LACO schools as well. I do think, and I want to also give a shout out to just kind of all the leadership out there as well, that's part of the relationship building, is like this firm commitment that this is something that needs to happen. And that often starts with our leaders and, the drive for equity and excellence. And so I just wanted to mention that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Blanca, did you want to add something? Oh, okay, great. No worries. So we did have some nitty gritty operational questions too. And I was hoping we could, instead of ending on this very big, broad, all encompassing area, I'd kind of like to end on some nitty gritty. Because the folks, by and large, who are attendees are practitioners and they want something to work on now. And so there was a lot of really good questions about FERPA and FERPA compliance, but we want to have college instructors talking to the counselors or the support folks that are supporting our students. And so I'm wondering if anybody has some really great, and Nick, you talked about student challenges with, paperwork and access to computers and things like that. So how do you navigate those kinds of communications that some partnerships worry about, like, well, FERPA, we're trying to protect students' rights and then not allowing those communications? Oh no, did I go into crazy town with that question?
A little bit. So I mean, one of the key things about your CCAP is data sharing agreements, right? So, this is a dedicated program. There's a need to know, right? And so, your county office or other folks might want to have a legal review, but your data sharing agreements are essential in your CCAP agreements in order to be able to share that back and forth. There's also about this, the partnership comes in, clarity of roles, clarity of communication, and clarity of contact, especially just for normal CCAPs for who the parents talk to, right? But also then just when you're dealing with, juvenile justice system impacted youth. So who is going to be the contact for different questions? And that will depend, right? That will depend on who's asking the question, what information is received. So it's a lot of clarifying of who is dedicated to respond to these types of questions from these individuals, and that you get to work that piece out with your partners, right? Depending on who's available in the institution to be able to respond. But your data sharing agreement is key in that, to be able to just allow the seamless transfer of information, the most basic information. What really gets interesting is, when you talk about like student discipline issues, those kinds of things, but the clarity of, well, if it's happening in this classroom on this site, then this is who deals with those things. That's to work out with the partners. I'll go out on a limb and say that doesn't necessarily have to be specified in your CCAP agreements. Your CCAP agreements are very, just legal documents establishing the agreement, authorizing the programming to happen. And so this is one of those tricks of don't let those details, though, get in the way of establishing the CCAP agreement. The CCAP agreement authorizes those conversations to happen to move towards the programming. Oftentimes, folks will want to have, every single itty bitty piece like that sorted out before the CCAP moves forward. That isn't required. That's going to be sorted out on the programmatic level. That might be a procedure. It's not going to be something that has to be specifically delineated in your CCAP before that's presented. Although be able to answer those questions when they come up.
Fantastic. And I would also add in there that FERPA allows for, and I put a general sheet that we have on FERPA in the Q&A. FERPA allows for information sharing. You can always do a FERPA waiver that students and their whoever holds their educational rights, a parent, a caregiver, would sign as well. Actually, I'm lying. The student would sign it because they hold their FERPA rights for college classes, even if they are a minor. But you can inform their parents or caregivers. It's for program improvement, and it's for the student's benefit. So to have a college instructor talk to a support person, a counselor, an advocate at the partnering institution about a student's progress, giving them their grade, things like that, it's totally allowable. I'll give you a crazy example. Having the college instructor talk to, say, the school nurse about a student's grades, totally inappropriate and not allowable, right? And so those just kind of common sense things do prevail. We have 1 minute left. Who wants to have the last word? Tell us why we should do. Can I ask you, Katie, to close us out and say why this is great work?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just re-emphasize what everybody here has said, that it's just a really key opportunity for our young people to reimagine what's possible for them in their futures and to lift them up also to be the leaders and advocates in this space too, to pursue, whatever goals that they have, but having these barriers removed for higher education and all of us working together to keep moving that needle forward is tremendous. So it's great to have all of you here, and please reach out to, all of us for support in any way. It's very exciting. Thanks, Naomi and everyone.
Thank you, everybody, so much. We will be sending out communications to all the attendees with contact info and everything. Excellent. Thanks all so much. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.